listening to Sports Talk 916 with Greg Bull and Coach Greg Veroza.
If you'd like to participate in this show and listen live, there's a number of ways to do it. You can go to the Mixlr app, or you can follow us on Facebook Live every Sunday. You can also go on the wildfireradio.com website and listen to us Tuesdays at 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific. And if you want to contact us, head over to our website at sportstalk916.com. There you'll find all of our social media feeds, bonus after-hours content that you won't hear anywhere else.
What is up? It is a late start, episode 242. As you can see on Facebook Live, Greg Veroza is not with me today. I am Greg Bull, and to my right, your left, is George Ramos, newly engaged George Ramos. What's up, man?
Not much. Hanging out, chilling, usual.
Right, so I appreciate you coming out to let us get a show in this week. I figured it'd be right in your wheelhouse. We're talking a lot of Niners and NBA. Since you're a fan, obviously, of a team that makes the playoffs, we can actually talk about it a little bit. So we'll jump. So first of all, as I mentioned, newly engaged. The Mother Nature somehow didn't want that to happen, but you made it work. Everything went smooth, and you had the almost ideal AT&T Park engagement, right?
Yeah, I mean, she loved it, so that's all that matters, I guess.
Right on, cool. So, for those of you guys that don't know, I think we even talked about it before, was on one of the other shows that Mother Nature blocked George from having the scoreboard message up and having all the proper stuff go on.
All
and
the months of planning.
And Mother Nature was like, nope, sorry, nothing for you.
First canceled game in 12 years.
Right.
First rain out in 12 years.
It's so crazy. And then, we were talking about Rosa last week, too, and I'm like, man, he should have done Greg mentioned, he's like, he should have done the kiss cam. And I was like, not based on what George told me about that.
Right.
So my mom says congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Go ahead and
appreciate it.
lean into this a little bit more.
That's on.
Do that there so we can actually hear you. All right, so it is episode 242. I appreciate you guys tuning in later than normal, I should say, for the show. And it should be good. We're going to talk a little bit of 49ers, Reuben Foster, and the impact it may have on the draft. There's a couple of wide receivers that may or may not. Well, one that is available, one that may be available. I'll get George's takes on that. And then, as I mentioned, we will talk about the NBA playoffs. We'll get some predictions. And if we have time, we'll jump into some baseball talk as well. So, first and foremost, Reuben Foster. On February 11th, he was arrested for alleged domestic violence. And in Santa Clara County, in the Los Gatos area where he is, the DA there is very diligent. They only take on cases from what I've read when there's something concrete. And it took a little over a month and a half for them to determine it was concrete, but he was charged with 3 felony counts. One, domestic violence with great bodily injury, preventing a victim from reporting a crime, felony assault weapon possession, and a misdemeanor for a large capacity magazine. Niner fans are in a little bit of a funk. They don't know whether or not he should be released, if they should let the trial play out, what the Niners should do. For me, I'm kind of at a weird spot too. I mean, it screams Alden Smith to me. Like, over and over and over again, this is just more Alden Smith. You gave him too many chances. He never righted his wrong. I would like to think Reuben Foster could, fix this. But, I mean, if convicted, he could face up to 11 years in prison. And it almost seems controversial in a sense that the Niners haven't released him yet, simply for the fact that he was actually charged. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's pretty much what you were saying with Alden Smith all over again. The part that makes it difficult for Niners fans is that when you look at on the field Alden Smith, it's really the only reason why there was even any thought of bringing him back. I just feel like with the Niners' new look with John Lynch at the general manager position, you got Kyle Shanahan, obviously just brought in Jimmy G at quarterback. You end your season going 5-0, things are looking bright, and then you get that bit of rain due to one guy on the team, which is what was happening with the Niners and Aldon Smith. So, I mean, with him being convicted of those charges, obviously if he's facing 11 years in prison, if he does, if he is guilty and they do give him 11 years, he's out right off the jump. The thing that gets me too is when you look back at the season, I mean, how much did he really play? It seems like he was injured somehow, some way every game, whether it was coming out for one play, whether it was coming out for the rest of the game, whether he had to miss a few weeks. So you don't really know what you're fully getting in a Reuben Foster. I mean, obviously the Niners have to do what's in the best choice for the organization as a whole. I know that there's some linebackers out there. There's Tremaine Edmonds, there's Raquan Smith. So it just kind of depends on which route they want to go. If they're going to, stand by their guy, Reuben Foster, and hope that everything works out in the best interest and he can play, or if they're going to, keep their reputation, I guess you would say, of not dealing with all of that and letting him go. And that's, I mean, I'm sure that we're going to talk about the draft here soon, so that's something else that obviously is going to factor into where the Niners are looking in the draft.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned a couple linebacker position players in the draft, but why not throw a feeler out there for someone that used to be a 49er? He wore 53, Navarro Bowman. Now, you mentioned injuries with Reuben Foster. Bowman kind of fills that same concern. He's obviously a little bit older, but if you need a get your nose in there kind of player to fill a hole to see what's going on, especially for the first 6 games of the season, if everything, goes away, let's say his fiance or girlfriend, or I believe he may even be wife now, decides not to press charges. Let's say she doesn't show up to testimony that day. That throws the whole case out, right? And he gets suspended 6 games. Why not a guy like Navarro Bowman to fill in that hole? And then, you got to remember too, Malcolm Smith didn't play last year. He was hurt. He's coming back. He can fill that spot with Reuben Foster for a year to not really derail the draft plans. But, I think the one person I don't want to be in this whole situation, aside from Reuben Foster, is John Lynch, because he has a big decision to make.
Yeah. I mean, with Navarro Bowman, you kind of know what you're getting as far as leadership and that veteranship. I mean, I love the idea of bringing Navarro Bowman back, but as a Giants fan, I also love the idea of bringing like Tim Lincecum back. So I don't know where Bowman will be as far as the actual performance, what he can do.
Right.
I know that coming back from his gruesome injury with the Niners against the Seahawks, he came back and was leading the NFL in tackles. So it's hard to say what he can do talent-wise on the field as far as his performance coming forward. But, I mean, the leadership, obviously, I mean, if he can mentor, other linebackers in that position while also still filling in the hole for us for 6 weeks, then, I mean, yeah, bring him back.
Right. TJ says drafting him was a high risk, high reward situation as it was. It was a risk. Now they need to deal with it. And I agree with that. They moved up. He fell in the draft because there was a lot of character issue questions, and Lynch was able to sneak back into the first round and get him. And, on paper it looked really good, but you hinted on it already. He didn't play much. He was, I don't want to call him glass because, he wasn't out the whole season, but he was
close.
He was tempered glass. Like, he was a little bit stronger than glass, but he wasn't doing much. It was a rib. It was this. It was, he fell wrong and bruised his dick. Whatever it happened to be, like, he seemed to be hurt all the time. Anytime there's a player down on the field, you're like, oh shit, was it Foster? Oh yeah, it was. There you go. Right. And then he would, come back, whatever. So, it's hard to say that losing him would be detrimental to the defense. He didn't play the whole year. The first couple games he did play, he was a shadow out there. He wasn't anything to be, overly proud of. So, I think if it was, let's say it was like a Patrick Willis after 4 or 5 years where he was cemented as literally the best linebacker in football, and then you run the risk of losing him. Well, you did lose him. I mean, Patrick Willis decided just to retire after 7 years, 6 years. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, oh shit, what are we going to do now? That was a harder hole to fill than Reuben Foster would be at this point. I mean, you had Bowman slide in. That was cool. You had Chris Borland that first year. He slid in. That was cool when Willis left. But I think at this point, if Malcolm Smith just slides in healthy, you're probably going to get better production out of him than you would have got last year with Reuben Foster. And not knowing his injuries, not knowing where his head would be at, already not going to be having him for at least 6 games, if not more. It might not be a bad idea to, just to see what happens, like I said, and see who you can get as a late round draft pick. I mean, you don't need to go and get a linebacker first overall pick for the Niners, at 9. You can do a lot more with that. You can still stay the course. You can go offensive line, defensive end, whatever it might be. Hell, if Saquon Barkley falls, you go Saquon Barkley at 9. I think if I'm Lynch, I stay the course. I go, you know what? We're going to figure this out. We have the talent to do it. Let's just wait and see what happens. Mike Barnbaum here says, Reuben Foster needs to be released. Now that this is the month that the draft happens, should be something that John Lynch take notice of and begin a culture change starting with player behavior. Law-abiding players should be rewarded. Foster's not one of them. And I agree with that in a sense. But, I mean, you also have to go back to innocent until proven guilty. Just because he was charged with the crime doesn't mean that the crime is going to stick. He may not be acquitted. He may get OJ'd. He may get away with it on a technicality. Who knows? I would say this, though. As a Niner fan, I'm preparing for this season to be without Reuben Foster.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do love the fact that as Niner fans, sometimes, we tend to forget that there are guys that were hurt that weren't playing last year, like Malcolm Smith, like Pierre Garçon, that's coming back with, Garoppolo at quarterback. I'm curious to see the performance from Malcolm Smith. Obviously, we're talking about a former Super Bowl MVP here. And what I'm more curious to see and hopeful for is that he was Super Bowl MVP with which teammate that the Niners also just signed to a contract. So I'm hoping that those two, linking up again and playing on that field together again, maybe it could be a situation where if it's not the rest of the players on the team, they're bringing out the best in one another. And, they already have that chemistry. They've won a Super Bowl together. They played in Seattle together.
He's talking about Richard Sherman, by the way, if no one's put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm curious to see what Malcolm Smith can do coming back. The Reuben Foster situation, I think that, John Lynch is kind of in a position right now where things they're not set in stone. You know what I mean? He's not proven guilty yet. So John Lynch doesn't want to let this guy go that he was so high on. And on a side note, John Lynch was amazing last year in the draft, the moves that he made picking up, or in the draft with Foster, picking up Thomas and Foster, because I know that they said that he was high on Foster all along. But he doesn't want to let this guy go if, we're talking about the next Patrick Willis, despite us seeing how much he was injured and obviously these off-field issues that are arising right now. I just don't think that he wants to let him go that soon, just in case. But if when all is said and done, Foster is guilty, and then John Lynch is going to have a decision to make, which I believe will be releasing him.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it's kind of just one of those things. You stay the course. You see what happens in the draft. If a linebacker is available, that's going to be good. You mentioned Edmonds,
Roquan Smith.
I think he could be a later in the first round kind of guy. I don't think you need to take him at 9.
I'm hoping so, because I feel like we're also forgetting that we're missing some secondary out there. We still need another safety, in my eyes. We got Sherman at corner. You got the young Ahkello Witherspoon at the other corner, which to me, he looked pretty good last year.
Yeah, I think Ahkello Witherspoon ends up leading the team in interceptions next year, right behind Richard, or right in front of Richard Sherman. They're either going to be tied or he's going to be right in front of him.
And I think that it's great that Witherspoon is so young, and
he's from Sacramento.
Yeah, he is from Sacramento. He's so young, and bringing in Richard Sherman, like I was talking about with Bowman, is a lot of it is that veteran leadership. Just like Garoppolo, before he came to the Niners, who was he sitting behind all his career watching? So I like, Richard Sherman being on that team, obviously talent-wise, but also to kind of mentor those youngsters. And I hope that he can, boost Witherspoon's performance out on the field too. I'm excited to see those two at the cornerback tandems. But for safety, we don't know where we're sitting right now.
So TJ just made a mention of Minkah Fitzpatrick could fall to the Niners at 9.
Mm-hmm.
How would you feel about the possibility of them going cornerback in the secondary at 9 if Minkah Fitzpatrick does fall, and see if he could slide into a safety spot, or see if Sherman slides into a safety spot? I mean, I know he's not typically as big as a safety may be, but having him as a ball hawk back there, just camping and not having to be a press coverage guy as he gets older, and being a leader on the defense at another level back where he can literally survey the entire field.
Yeah.
That could be something extremely interesting. But I mean, I definitely think that the Niners are set on the secondary going forward. They do need to fill a spot, eventually, because obviously Sherman's only going to be here for a couple of years. If Minkah Fitzpatrick falls, you got to at least look at him or open up the phone lines, because someone's going to want him if he falls to 9. You might be able to slide back 2 or 3 spots, get another couple first round pick or another second round pick, and really just build the team up, because I mean, that's what Lynch seems to do. He knows a way to get those picks just falling into their laps.
Yeah, and there's also, speaking of Minkah Fitzpatrick, there's also Derwin James out of Florida State that looks somewhat promising as well. I don't know that I like the idea of trying to move Sherman to a safety, for the reason being that when you're playing a safety position, you are pretty much all over the field. And I feel like watching Richard Sherman play for all of those years, his best performance and how he was used to playing was pretty much one side of the field. So I don't know that, trying to have him test the waters at safety, I don't know how that would fare out. But like I already said, I mean, I love him at corner and Witherspoon at corner. If we can get those safety holes filled, then, our secondary might be something. It hasn't been for a while. Even in the Harbaugh era, our secondary was always sketch with the Carlos Rogers and even Goldson and Whitner back there, hard hitters, but we were still giving up the deep balls a lot.
Yeah, those two were good. They were fine when the ball was thrown down in the flat and they were able to close, but as coverage guys, they were never anything that you can like hang a hat on to be like, okay, we're good.
Right.
Barnbaum, you mentioned Richard Sherman. I want to get your guys' take on what was a bigger free agent signing, Sherman to the Niners or Brandon Cooks to the Rams. I'm going to go with Sherman to the Niners, since he's the only one that was a free agent signing. Brandon Cooks was traded to the Rams. So the bigger free agent signing, definitely Richard Sherman to the 49ers. What's up, Evan? Thanks for joining in, dude. Speaking of that, the Rams went out and traded for Brandon Cooks. They were high on the idea of trying to get Odell Beckham Jr. from the Giants. They wanted, the Giants were asking for like 13 first-round picks, but, regardless of the case, he was being shopped around. A lot of people feel that the Rams loading up is direct response to the way that the Niners are loading up, that they're in a way, they're obviously in win now mode. They went out and get on Ndamukong Suh. They got Brandon Cooks. They got I don't remember who else they signed. They signed someone else as well. They're signing a bunch of.
They picked up Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib.
That's what it was. Okay, those two. So, there's a lot going on there. Do you think that with those moves, Lynch needs to be a little bit more aggressive come draft day to acquire one of those guys? Maybe, or another big name guy. They didn't go after any big free agents. There's a lot of speculation right now that Lynch, amongst almost every other GM, is extremely high on Saquon Barkley. To the point where if he can move up, he being Lynch can move up to like 5 or 6, he could be available there for them. Colin Cowherd thinks that Saquon Barkley is going to be this year's Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to fall back to 9 for the Niners to take him there.
Yeah.
But do you think that he needs to be aggressive to kind of counteract what they're doing in LA? Because a lot of people tend to forget, like everyone's like, oh, I wanted Allen Robinson, I wanted to go after Brandon Cooks, they should have got Odell Beckham. Garcon's coming back from injury, you already mentioned that. Mm-hmm. You have Goodwin, you have Trent Taylor, who I think is going to be the next Wes Welker style receiver. They also have Bourne, who looked good in minimal plays last year.
Yeah.
The wide receiver core with Kittle and Selleck at tight end, I don't think that they're that far off from being a really good group. Now, obviously, if you can land a bigger name guy, like a red zone threat guy, you try to do so. But unlike a lot of 49er fans, I don't feel that the Niners need to be in panic mode when it comes to their offense, because not only are they going to have those guys I mentioned, but they're going to have Garoppolo with an entire playbook going into the season, which he didn't have last year, and he was still uber productive without Bourne, without Garcon. You know, there's a lot of guys that he didn't have on that roster when he came in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the moves that the Rams are making, it kind of reminds me of Los Angeles' baseball team. Just, you know, go out. I mean, they sign Yu Darvish. Magic Johnson is going to spend the money and get whoever, and you can't buy a championship. I mean, the Dodgers have tried for so many years, and I understand the talent that's coming to the Rams. I don't think that Beckham is worth giving up all of your future for, and I think that the Rams pretty much let that be known with settling for Cooks rather than going after Beckham. And I don't think that the Niners need to be in panic mode. I mean, yeah, the Rams are going out and getting stars. They got Marcus Peters. They got Aqib Talib. They signed Sue. They have Aaron Donald there. They, you know, seem to have found rhythm in their offense for the first time since having Goff. But we don't even know how these guys are going to look playing together. Just, I mean, in my experience watching teams just like, you know, like I said, like the Dodgers, you go out and you have all this talent. They still came up short in a championship game, in a World Series. So I'd be curious to see how the Rams fare out playing together. Yeah, I mean, on paper, they look pretty damn good.
Right.
They look pretty deep, and they look pretty good. But at the same time, there's a difference between, you know, players on paper and players on the field and how they're playing together. Garoppolo having a whole offseason and preseason with the Niners and being able to study that playbook is going to be helpful for sure. He has Garcon coming back and already a speedy Goodwin. You mentioned the tight ends, Selleck and Kittle. I don't know that Barkley falls to 9, especially with the Giants and the Colts being up there at the top of the draft.
Right.
And Cleveland having 2 out of the first 4 picks in the draft. I don't know where they're going. Obviously, they just got Tyrod Taylor, Jarvis Landry. They picked up Carlos Hyde, former 49er. So I don't know.
Thank God, by the way.
I don't know where they're looking at going, but
I think the Browns. Oh, hold on real quick. What's up, Albert? And Greg's right. Lots of questionable locker room guys in LA. I think the Browns go Darnold 1, and I think they go Bradley Chubb if he's available at 4. Because then you got Myles Garrett and Bradley Chubb on opposite ends of the line, right, pursuing the opposing quarterbacks. That's going to be tough. But you know, you mentioned the Rams a lot about all those big name players they have. Rams fans are on cloud 9 right now, right?
Yeah.
They're loving it. They're like, oh, we're going to take it to the Niners. We're going to take it to the NFC West. Blah 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 blah. But here's the deal. While the Niners' approach this offseason was methodical to the point where they have the cap space to lock up their young guys for the foreseeable future, the Rams, you mentioned Ndamukong Suh, you mentioned Aaron Donald, you mentioned Brandon Cooks. Like, there's a lot of these guys that are going to be the centerpiece guys. Aqib Talib's one of them. Marcus Peters is another one. All of those guys are going to be up for contracts in 2 years.
Yeah,
and they're not going to have the cap space to sign them all. So they're in win now.
Yeah.
They have to win now. Otherwise, they go right back into rebuild, where the Niners are taking a slow approach. They're rebuilding, and they're going to have the time to slowly put pieces together. So I would much rather be, you know, a Niners fan right now. Even if the Rams win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years, I would much rather have a team like the Niners right now that are putting the pieces together. It might take 2 or 3 years to be in contention to win a Super Bowl, but after those 2 or 3 years, they're still going to be in contention for the next 5 or 6, as opposed to the Rams right now. If they don't win the next 2 or 3, they're done. And they don't have a chance at winning anymore because they're literally going to have to blow that roster up.
Right.
So I would much rather be the 49ers in this situation. You know, you mentioned Barkley probably not falling down to 9. I really don't see it happen. I have everything crossed that he does. What's up, Ali? But you know, it's gonna be tough for sure to see that happen. I think if the Niners really want Saquon Barkley, they're gonna have to move up to 5 to get him.
Yeah, they will have to move up for sure. And I mean, we've seen John Lynch's work with trades in the draft already, so I don't think anything would be a surprise. But yeah, and I mean, running back wise, we went out and got McKinnon, and we also have Matt Breida, who doesn't look too bad himself. So
I'm not even that excited about Breida as much as I'm about Joe Williams sitting behind him.
Yeah,
because we didn't get to see anything from Joe Williams, and he fits that mold perfectly.
Yeah.
Adam says Steelers will win a 7th Super Bowl before the 49ers win the 6th. You know what?
It's not franchise tagging Le'Veon Bell.
Yes. Let's see how that goes after they don't sign Bell next season when he can't be tagged anymore. Roethlisberger's on his way out too. I don't see – you got to win in the next 2 years to win 7 before that ship sails and you guys start all over as well. So, you know, if the Steelers are going to win it, they better start – it'll be the Steelers and Rams in the 2-year Super Bowl window. Whoever's better to get it by then.
Right.
You mentioned, you know, getting crazy. You'd be surprised if the Niners were to get Saquon Barkley. But would you be surprised if John Lynch went out and got a guy who was recently released like Dez Bryant?
I mean, I've thought about that too with the Dez Bryant releasing. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying that it's gonna happen, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Would you be happy if it happened?
Dez is, I mean, he's declined through the years. Like, I don't think that he is that beast that was with Romo at quarterback. But at the same time, some of these guys, they just need a fresh start. So wherever he ends up going,
says no.
wherever he ends up going, you know, it's obviously going to be new scenery, and that can alter a player's performance. So we could see that monster Dez that was before, and I personally wouldn't mind having him on the Niners. He's a good red zone target. You got Garoppolo back there, who, from what we have seen from him, knows how to put the ball on the money. He knows, you know, where the ball needs to be placed for his receivers. And I don't know, when we get into that red zone area, it's tough. It's been tough.
Feroza says he's a shell of himself and he's too much of a diva. So I agree with the shell of himself thing, but I think his stay was just worn out in Dallas. I think he was looking for an out to start over. Because, I mean, he's getting older. Yeah, he's 6 seasons in, but look at guys like Tim Brown. Look at guys like Jordy Nelson now. You know, they're getting better as their career goes along because they're settling into a role. Tim Brown got better as his career went along. They settled into a role that was more simple. They weren't the ones that have to do everything. And they made Dez that guy that had to do everything. And as far as being a diva, I'll give you that. Yes, I'm not going to discount that one bit.
He's not more of a diva than Beckham.
He's not more of a diva than Beckham. He's not more of a diva than Crabtree.
Or Josh Norman.
But here's the deal. The reason why he was a diva and he maintained that status is because Jerry Jones coddled the shit out of him. To me, he is the same way with Jerry Jones basically putting the crown on his head before he did anything, was like the Maloofs did with DeMarcus Cousins and Vivek did with DeMarcus Cousins. Before he proved anything, he was given the keys to the kingdom. He could do nothing wrong, and no matter what he did, he was supported by the organization regardless of performance, attitude, blow up, whatever it was. And I think that buck stops with John Lynch. If he comes to the 49ers, it'll be on a lower money deal with incentives. He's not going to be paid as a number one because he's not a number one guy anymore. And I think you see a different mentality to prove he's not the guy that everyone's pegged him to be, because, you know, sometimes you got to make sure that you're not wiping his ass with $100 bills for him to perform better. And that's why I equate him to DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, DeMarcus's ass was wiped by a servant the second he got here, and he was never held accountable for his actions. And that's the exact same thing with Dez Bryant.
Well, I had also seen a report too, which obviously we don't know how true or not it is, but somebody had reported that when Dez walked out of the Cowboys facility, he told them that he would see them twice a year. Obviously, as sports fans, we know what twice a year means. It means that you're going to be in the same division. So
I can see him going to Washington.
I don't know, because I was thinking about
Alex
that
Smith
too. But
and Dez Bryant.
But who's he going to be going up against in practice? Josh Norman. They don't.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, it could bring out the best in one another. And, you know, when it comes to this type of business, they can let bygones be bygones and move forward. And it might be Washington. I I'd be surprised as hell if he went to Philly. I
Can
honestly
you see
would.
him going to the Giants and being with Eli? And if they move Odell on draft day, I could see Dez sliding into New York.
Yeah, for sure. If they move Odell, I just don't think Odell's going to be moved. I don't think that there's any team that is eager enough to give up what the Giants are asking for.
I think that the Giants asking for 2 firsts and everything they were asking for was a smokescreen.
Yeah.
They were like, well, fuck, let's see if someone does it. Let's take a chance. You know what? It's like when you put something on like Craigslist or OfferUp or whatever, one of those sites, right?
And you really want 150 and you list it for 250 or something.
Right. You're like, you know what? I could probably get $80 for this. I'm gonna put it at 110 and I'm gonna hope to get 90. But if someone lowballs me at 75, I'm gonna bump it up to 80 and be happy.
Right.
They're like, all right, well, we'll ask for 2 first-round picks and a second. If we get a first and a second, we'll be happy. On draft day, if we move up a couple spots or if we get into the first round again, you know what? We'll probably take it.
Right.
And I think that's the approach that they had going there. I would just think if Buffalo, New England, Green Bay, according to Adam Schefter,
I could see New England or Green Bay.
I think Green Bay would be great for him because he would have a quarterback that would keep him in check and a quarterback that can give him the ball. Can you imagine if he went to Washington? And let's put it this way. Dez is not a very good route runner. He never really has been. He's always just been big. Even if he runs a bad route, you just throw the ball to him and he can, when he does catch the ball, he does well. Can you imagine the chance he gets where he burns a corner on a deep route and Smith misses it by like 7 yards because he can't throw the deep ball, or he overthrows it by like 5? The first blow up that happens between those two.
You talk about Alex Smith like you watched him play for years or something.
Right, like I know a lot about how shitty he can be on the deep ball. It's going to be crazy. I'm looking forward to it. The draft is at the end of this month. It's going to get crazy, especially with John Lynch. It's so nice when you don't have guys like Trent Baalke in the 5th round taking one of these.
A fucking punter!
So I'm looking forward to it a lot. It's going to be cool. It's, I believe, the 26th.
Yeah, 26. Shit, can you imagine Des Bryant with Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Graham they just got too?
Talk about taking the top off of a defense.
Right.
TJ's going to put out his draft preview on the 24th at tjsportsgeek.com. I always look forward to those. It'll be cool. Greg's on. Let's do a commercial real quick, and we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs.
For all of your real estate needs in Sacramento area, Northern California, and across the country, give me a call, 916-223-6688. It's Greg Veroza from Keller Williams Realty. If you're out of the area, I know people all over the country that can help you out. So give me a call, 916-223-6688. Or you can go to my website, gregveroza.com.
This is stupid. I want to talk about vaginas.
All right, let's talk about basketball. So the NBA playoffs are here.
Yeah, buddy.
As you can see on Facebook Live, George is rocking his Warriors, brand new Warriors shirt. But no, I'm just kidding. George is probably one of the few guys that I won't give shit to about being a bandwagon Warrior fan. Just because, he grew up in the Bay. He's from the Bay. He's Bay through and through. So I'll give him credit for that. I was going to put him in a different shirt before we started just because of the fact that he's in my house. But we're going to let it go this time. So NBA playoffs are here. Obviously, as Kings fans, we're not really sure what the fuck's going on with that anymore. But, it's one of those things where sometimes you just gotta appreciate good basketball. And I definitely think that that's what we're going to get. This year's playoffs actually look to be pretty good matchups. It's going to be pretty cool. I want to start in the East. We'll get to the Warriors here in a moment, but let's start out in the East. I think the East this year is going to be something that is must-see basketball. Toronto, Washington, I think is going to be a really good series. That's the 1 in the 8 series. Both of those teams are deep in their own way. Toronto is deep with quality players that are able to grind it out, and really they've built their team up nicely over the last couple of years. Washington, on the other hand, is loaded with front-end star power with good accessory players that seem to complement the starters very well, and they work really well together. I think Washington limped into the playoffs, and I don't necessarily think that they have a shot at all of beating Toronto. I think that's one of the rare series in the East that I'm sorry. I think that's one of the series in the East that are gonna be ones that are just over quickly. It's gonna be 4 games. I think it's gonna be a sweep. I don't see.
You don't give them a game?
I don't even give Washington a game. I think Toronto is just going to go ahead and just run right through them. I just think Toronto has the bigger chip on their shoulder that they really want to prove that the last couple years that they've been in the playoffs hasn't been a fluke. But I'm guessing by you saying you're not going to give them a game, you're at least giving them 1 or 2, right?
Yeah, I give them 1. I think Toronto takes a 4-1 series and moves on. I mean, the East is going to be pretty interesting as far as matchup wise. I think that when you look at the West, you see a lot of talent for those West matchups. Obviously, you have the Warriors, you got OKC, you got Houston. San Antonio is always tough just on performance and coaching alone. But the East, I mean, you had Cleveland lost to Indiana, right?
Yeah.
Cleveland lost to Indiana. You got the Celtics and the Bucks, which Celtics are without Kyrie. They've been without Gordon Hayward all year, so not to say that that isn't a huge loss, but they've gotten this far without him.
And we're going to get to that one here in a second, which I think is going to be the biggest shocker of them all.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd give Washington a game. I give Toronto a 4-1 series, and they obviously move on. I don't think that Washington takes them to 6 or 7.
I'm going to write these down, by the way, just so we can reference them. So you have a 4-1 Toronto.
4-1 Toronto series.
I got a 4-0 Toronto series. The next one you mentioned was the number 2 seed Milwaukee Bucks the number 2 seed Boston Celtics versus the number 7 seed Milwaukee Bucks. Now, when you look at seeding, obviously you're like, oh, well, Boston's going to be the better team. But when you look at talent-wise, you mentioned Kyrie's gone. You mentioned, Gordon Hayward hasn't played all season long. The Bucks are on a interim coach. They have a pretty deep team when it comes to quality players. But then they have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is
ridiculous.
He arguably is probably one of the best players in the league.
Yeah.
And in the next 2 or 3 years, he's going to surpass James and Durant and everybody as the best player in the league. And that's just off pure talent alone and work ethic. And that dude is amazing. I honestly, if you would have told me, if we would have had this conversation yesterday before the series started, I wouldn't have given Boston that much hope. I would say that their injuries are too big and they're not gonna make it through. But on the flip side of that, and another thing too is I just didn't think they had anyone there that can guard Antetokounmpo. I mean, he's that good, and
they got it done though.
Horford today had 24 and 12. They won 113-107 in overtime, and they being the Celtics. I'm trying to see what the Freak got. He had 35 and 13 with 7 assists, but he fouled out in overtime. So, but I mean, Middleton had 31 points. Brogdon scored 16 after the half. Like, it's a lot of guys on that team. You're like, who the hell are they? But they work well. So I wouldn't have given Boston that much of a hope. I thought this was going to be a drawn out series. I thought it would, but I didn't expect Boston to win the first 2. I thought they were going to lose home court advantage early, and then they would have to win a garbage game down in Milwaukee to prove themselves. But I was wrong there. I have this one still going 6 with a 4-2 Milwaukee series win.
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know. And the thing with Milwaukee is, I mean, they definitely have some talent, and Giannis is one of those players, but he can't do it alone. And I don't know. Boston is they've put it together. They had, Irving and Hayward. Hayward was out from the beginning of the season, and then you lose Kyrie Irving more recently, but they still have been able to put together some W's. I could see that series possibly going 7. I'm going to go with Boston, though, over Milwaukee, and I'm going to send it to a game 7. I don't see Boston winning 4-1. They could possibly win 4-2, but I see them winning a 7-game series 4-3.
I could definitely see that. It's all going to depend on the next game. If Boston wins both games at home, I think my prediction's toast.
Yeah.
I don't see them coming back. Them being the Bucks coming back from a 2-0 deficit with them basically having to win out, to make it happen on the road. The 3-6, I think this one's going to be crazy. TJ just mentioned it. Sixers look scary. Philly's the 3, Miami's the 6. Philly won yesterday 130-103.
Yeah.
That's without Embiid, who should be back soon. When he comes back, that's going to be even more ridiculous. The Sixers have won 17 straight.
Yeah.
Like, where did this trust the fucking process, right?
Right.
I don't think Philly loses the game in this series. I think they sweep Miami 4-0.
I could see that happening too. I could see the Sixers sweeping Miami. I just think that the Eastern matchups are pretty good, but I don't know. I feel that whoever comes out of the East is certainly going to meet their match playing a Western Conference team who comes out of the West, which obviously, as I'm hoping, is the Warriors. But the West obviously is loaded with talent too. But I could see the Sixers at this point in round 1 sweeping the Heat as well, 4-0. And Embiid coming back is just going to obviously strengthen them even more.
Right. The 4-5 is excuse me, the 4-5 is the Miami Heat at 4 with the Indiana Pacers at 5.
Cavaliers.
What did I say?
Miami Heat.
Yeah, Cleveland Cavaliers at the 4 and Indy at the 5. Indiana won today to get that first game. Is Cleveland? I mean, I don't think they were leading into the playoffs, but everyone's always said, oh well, Cleveland, once they get in, they're going to be great. I don't think you can. I don't have Cleveland being a shoo-in to even make the Eastern Conference Finals. But a lot of people said, oh, well, it's a LeBron James team. Once they get in the playoffs, it's a whole different story. They limped in big time.
Yeah.
And Victor Oladipo went off today.
Yeah.
Indiana's got a really good squad. They're one of the teams that surged into the playoffs, much like Philly did, as opposed to limping in like a lot of the other top teams did.
Yeah.
I don't think Cleveland has a problem getting through this series. I think they win it in 6. But man, I have a hard time picking Cleveland to go deep into this playoffs. They're just not there.
I don't know, and it says so often about it being a LeBron James team, but it's true. I mean, LeBron has figured out. I mean, he took Cavs he took them to the finals in 2007 when they lost to San Antonio, right? They played San Antonio and lost to San Antonio, and I don't know. LeBron James just finds a way to get it done, and with the Indiana Pacers, I don't know that. I mean, for this series, we're on the same page with Cleveland. I think Cleveland will win in 5 or 6. Pacers obviously took game 1, but if someone were to come to you and tell you that, a Paul George Pacers team couldn't get it done, but a Victor Oladipo Pacers team is going to get it done, I don't know that I would buy that. And not to say that it can't happen. I mean, obviously Indiana took game 1, but I have a feeling that Cleveland will pick up their game. They'll get through this series, and then the next series I think is going to be that kind of eye-opener that it's not going to be as easy. And, it's already starting off not easy for them now with losing game 1, but they'll certainly pick it up and get it together for this series through the Pacers. Right.
So if we go off of our predictions, we both have Toronto and Cleveland winning in their series. That would put Toronto-Cleveland in the next round.
Yeah, and I don't know. That would be definitely something to add to LeBron's resume. If he gets through this Pacers team and he leads that Cleveland team that limped into the playoffs and is struggling with the Pacers against the Toronto Raptors, I'd be surprised. I'd be really, really surprised.
Yeah, I see as weird as it sounds, I never thought I would say this, but based on the way I'm looking at the bracket right now, I see a Toronto-Philadelphia Eastern Conference Final.
Yeah, that's how it looks on paper right now, at least.
And you know what? I'm gonna ride the coattails of Cinderella. I'm gonna take the Philadelphia 76ers in the NBA Finals this year versus the West. I don't know that there's a team that they can beat in the West. I mean, outside of the top 4 that are there. I mean, I think if somehow a Cinderella story makes it in the West, then I think they have a chance. But if it's Houston, Oklahoma City, or Golden State, I really don't think Philly has. I won't say they don't have a shot, but I think
ability to win 4 games against them.
I think it strikes midnight a little bit earlier than they want it to. But
yeah.
who do you have coming out of the East?
If I had to pick right now, I would probably pick Toronto coming out of the East. So you can write that down as my pick. I definitely would not be surprised if the Sixers pulled that off and came out of the East. But I'm gonna go with Toronto right now as my team coming out of the East.
Cool, and we'll when these series move on, and Greg, I agree they can beat OKC, but I think it'll be a tough one, and they could. I mean, if they continue to play in the way that they are, they could beat anybody.
Yeah, I don't see OKC getting through though.
I don't either, but let's get to the West. So right now, the number 1 seed is Houston versus Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Is there even really a reason to talk about this series? I mean, Houston's going to steamroll.
One of the funny things is, obviously, how you already mentioned, Michelle and I just got engaged. She is starting to take more of an interest in sports, and her favorite player of any sport anywhere is James Harden. And it's less about his numbers as far as his points that he's putting up. It's not even his beard. It's the stuff that he does off the court on camera, his dancing and his eye roll. And
right.
she just could watch James Harden. If she could people watch anybody in the world, I think it would just be James Harden for a day. So that's her player. Obviously, she knows if the Warriors end up playing the Rockets and she's over there cheering for James Harden, she's going to get the cold shoulder from me. So I don't think that she would do that, but I think that while Houston is playing any other team, she's going to go for Houston. And obviously, she's happy, I'm happy until it comes time for James Harden to have to face this Warriors team. Right.
So what's your prediction on this series? I go 4-1 Houston.
Yeah. I'll go 4-2 Houston. I don't know. I like the Minnesota team. Obviously, they are an 8 seed. I wouldn't be surprised with 4-1, but I'll give them 2 games and go 4-2 Houston.
Right. I'm just trying to find something real quick here. I want to see if you saw this or not. It was the thing about if LeBron James and Paul George were to join Houston next year.
Forget Houston. What if LeBron James and Paul George join the 76ers?
Fuck. That would be crazy, too.
That'd be ridiculous.
Here we go. If LeBron James and Paul George join the Rockets, it says this. Whoever posted it.
Is it the last name, first name thing?
So it says, just realize if LeBron and Paul George go to Houston this offseason, the starting lineup of first names would be Chris Paul, LeBron James. The starting lineup of last names would be Paul George, James Harden. It's hella weird if you think about that. It's like, weird. Really?
Well, I feel like that's one of those things where, you know how I was mentioned earlier about Des Bryant saying that he was, when he walked out of the Cowboys facility, he said, I'll see you guys
They might just do that to do it?
Well, no. He had posted a tweet and said something about time to move forward with the process or something like that, and someone took that part of his tweet, the process, and linked it to Philadelphia, pretty much saying, could he be going to the Eagles? So
to the Eagles, he's switching sports now?
No, I'm talking about Des Bryant.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about LeBron. I'm like,
no. Des Bryant
gotcha.
Posted something about the process, and so they tried to link it to Philadelphia.
All right. So the second series here, the 2-7 is Golden State, San Antonio. Report just came out of San Antonio that Kawhi Leonard is out for the entire playoffs. They're without Kawhi Leonard. They as weird as it sounds for me to say this, 'cause I don't think I've ever said this since Greg Popovich was the coach of the San Antonio Spurs. The San Antonio Spurs have zero shot at getting through the playoffs, getting through the first round at all. With Kawhi, you know what? You have to give respect to the Spurs and say, you know what? Anything's possible. With Popovich, regardless if it's against your Warriors or not, you gotta admit, if Kawhi's healthy and playing, a Popovich-led team, you're a little bit concerned about him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And we've seen that, when he got hurt with, Zaza and trying to block that shot and everything. So we didn't really get to see a full San Antonio Golden State series with Kawhi in it. But Kawhi obviously is top 10, maybe to some people top 7-5 player in the NBA.
Right.
The dude is phenomenal. So
without them, do you even think San Antonio has a shot at one game against the Warriors?
I mean, the fan part of me wants to say no. I'll be realistic and give them maybe a shot. Obviously, we're still missing Steph, but we got KD, Draymond, and Clay healthy. Iguodala ran the point yesterday, which was kind of crazy to hear. Yeah, I don't know. I think that it'll be a sweep. I guess maybe give them a game, but I think that we'll sweep them and send them out.
So Will just said A's win. Just so the Giants fans have an update, it's now 10-1 in the bottom of the 7th. San Diego's now leading. You said you have a sweep or you have one?
I got a sweep.
4-0 Golden State.
4-0.
So you mentioned Steph, and we'll get back to that here when we're done making our predictions for the first round, because I do want to talk to you about that. The next game in that series the next games in that series is the 3-seeded Portland Trailblazers versus the 6-seeded New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans got the upset yesterday on the road. Anthony Davis is a man among boys. Playoff Rondo is something to be worried about whenever you're playing. I mean, he had 17 assists yesterday. Do you give the Pelicans an opportunity, or do you give them a shot in this series? Or do you think that's one of those things where it's one of those where anyone can get a game? It's sustaining it over 4 is going to be the real challenge, because they're good, but without DeMarcus Cousins, they're not. I don't think they're geared for a deep playoff run good.
Yeah, and it wasn't a 113-92 or a 130-103. It was 97-95.
Right.
So they barely pulled that game out. I give them shots to win games. I don't give them a shot to win the series. I think that the Blazers win in 6.
That's what I have too.
And move forward. Yeah, and I would be really curious to see the New Orleans teams with DeMarcus Cousins in there and see, how they fared up against the Blazers with him in that lineup.
Yeah, and that team with DeMarcus would be scary.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, playoff teams are going to have a hard time stacking up against a team like that. But, obviously DeMarcus is out, so it's a whole new thing. The Pelicans, I think, are a real team. They were on the road, but I just don't see them pulling it out. I have it 4-2 Portland as well.
Yeah.
We
got the.
Actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna switch that. I'm gonna go 4-2 New Orleans. I think now that I'm thinking about it, just thinking about Anthony Davis by himself. If Davis wants to go off for 50 and 20, he's going to, and I don't know that Portland has the big guy that can stop him. So I'm gonna switch it up. I'm gonna take Portland, the Pelicans. The next one right now, the 4-5 seed is
the Jazz and the Thunder.
Jazz Thunder. That game's going on right now.
Yeah, Jazz up to 22-20 with 1:35 left in the first.
The Jazz are that West Coast Cinderella team. They're the Western Conference Philadelphia 76ers. They ran off a bunch of big win streaks. They really got into it to get into the playoffs on a strong path. I just don't see Russ and George and Melo getting bounced in the first round.
Yeah, I don't see that happening either. But that Donovan Mitchell kid
he's a beast.
He's a beast. And, they got on a hot streak toward the end of the season. And I don't know. Sometimes that's just what it takes. I mean, we've seen it happen even in all sports. You get on that hot streak and ride that through the playoffs, and it's possible. I don't think that the Russ, Paul George, Carmelo, OKC Thunder team is unstoppable. I don't pick the Jazz to win, but it's one of those series where it wouldn't be a surprise if they somehow took it 7.
I see it going 7 as well.
7.
I see the Jazz being that gritty team that runs it through. I think it goes 4-3 OKC. So that's my thought. What do you have? You have it going 7?
Yeah, I'll have it going 7 with OKC. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to go. Yeah, I'll go 7.
with OKC.
I'll go 7 OKC.
All right, so that puts us with a Houston OKC second round and a well, we have different teams in the second, but for the other side of the bracket, obviously you're going to ride the Warriors all the way through. Yeah. But let me ask you this: you mentioned the Warriors right now don't have Steph, and in most cases you have a team with a player like Steph Curry. He's not playing right away, and you automatically go with, is this team still the team to beat? Now, with Steph, it's almost impossible to say that it's not going to be Houston Warriors in the finals. And that's going to be one of those like must-watch series because that is going to be tooth and nail. And honestly, I think that even with Steph, a series with Houston can go 7 and come down to the wire.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to be a cakewalk for either team. Now, how serious is the situation? It's his ankle, right?
Yeah, it's his ankle.
How serious is it right now where his prognosis is looking for? Is it going to be one of those things like they did a couple years ago where they hold him out of the first round just so he gets better unless they need him in like an elimination style game? Are they going to ride the Durant, Clay, and Draymond wave until they can't? Or, what is it looking like right now for Golden State?
I mean, I haven't heard of like a specific time frame. I know that he is kind of testing the waters. He was out there during game 1, kind of running around, stretching, seeing how it felt, and shooting around. I could definitely see them holding him out for the first round, especially, I mean, game 1 wasn't like a nail biter, you know what I mean? So I think that they'll kind of wait that out and see. If we're going to sweep San Antonio, might as well rest Steph and, give him that time. I do see him coming back sometime in the second round. I don't think that he comes back against San Antonio because I don't think that it's absolutely needed. If it was somehow absolutely needed, they may try and bring him back, but I would see him coming back in the second round.
Okay, now let me ask you this. Obviously, Steph at less than 100% is still better than most at 100% in this league.
Right.
If Steph's not at 100% and KD or KD or Draymond goes down, because I think Clay, while he is part of the four-headed monster, he's not one. If he gets hurt, you're not going to look at it and go, oh shit, Thompson's hurt, we're toast.
Yeah.
He's kind of fallen into that backseat role. But let's say Durant or Draymond goes down and Steph's not at 100%. Looking at it from the outside, not as a Warrior fan, because obviously you're going to be an internal optimist, right? You're like, oh no, we're going to be good. But if they're playing Houston, or let's say it's in the finals and let's say game 7 of the Western Conference Finals against Houston, let's say Steph's still kind of ginger on the ankle, and let's say Durant goes down with a knee or an ankle injury, and he's going to be out for a number of games, and Philly comes in on the East. How much concern do you have with this team not being 100%? Because obviously, at 100%, even as a Kings fan, I can't look at the Warriors and go, they're going to lose. It's not their, they haven't proven that vulnerable in a long time.
Yeah.
But not at 100%. How much concern is there if they don't go into this finals or even the Western Conference Finals at full strength? Because they're going to be facing teams that are a lot tougher than they have, other than Cleveland.
Yeah.
In this playoffs, it's actually going to be some competition as opposed to what they faced in the years past.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've been dealing with it all season. It seems like for the most part, it's been towards, the second half of the season, but we've been dealing with these injuries for a while. It's been KD, it's been Draymond, it's been Steph, it's been Clay, it's been Jordan Bell, it's been, numerous injuries through the season. And it goes to show, I mean, obviously when you have that many injuries, we still have talent out there. We still got Livingston. We still got Andre. We still got Quinn Cook coming up and scoring some points. But Yeah, I mean, it'll be tough. Being realistic, if we're going into Game 7 with a healthy Houston team and Steph isn't at 100% and KD goes down or something, then yeah, you kind of got to start to wonder, are they going to be able to pull this out? But in I mean, we're not a 73-9 team this year. We're 58-24. So it's been kind of up and down, rocky and wavy. But again, it's just in any sport, once you're in, it's a whole fresh slate. It doesn't matter what you did in the regular season. The Patriots went 16-0 and came up short in a Super Bowl.
Right.
So, I mean, the Warriors, they're deep. They have a good bench. They have a good coach. I love Steve Kerr as a coach. I don't think that it'll be a cakewalk. I'm not going to sit here and look you in the eye and say, if Steph isn't at 100% and KD's out and they're in Game 7 with Houston in the Western Conference Finals, yeah, we're going to win by 15 or we're going to win by 20. No, it would for sure be a nail-biter type game.
Damn it, Barn Bomb.
What now?
I would be concerned about any injury-plagued team. First of all, they're not an injury-plagued team. They've just been dealing with injuries. With regards to the Warriors, basketball fans should be concerned if Steph, Clay, and KD are all out due to injury. Draymond does not have what it takes to carry the team all by himself. He just can't do it. Well, no shit.
Yeah,
We weren't. Even George, as a Warrior fan, if Steph, Clay, and KD went down and only Draymond's there, you have the white flag in your pocket. You might not wave it, but in the back of your mind, you're like, fuck, well, there goes that run.
Right.
There's just no way. That's just too big of a piece. But I would never suggest, I mean, let's knock on wood because, anything can happen. Injuries can happen. But I don't see a situation where
it's just Draymond on the
where
court.
it's Draymond, Iguodala, and Sean Livingston trying to run an NBA Finals. But I'll tell you this right now. Y'all fucked up. Because you guys let Omri Caspi go. And
the former king.
Without Omri Caspi, y'all are fucked. You can't win. You're not going to win nothing. No, but I'm hoping, as bad as it is as a Kings fan, I'm hoping for a Warriors-Rockets Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I think that's the best matchup that you can get.
I wouldn't be upset if Golden State makes it to another Finals just because I know it's going to be fun basketball. For some reason, though, I think that Houston is going to find a way to pull it off. If, and I say if they find a way to slow down Kevin Durant. I think Steph can get his, Clay's going to get his, Draymond's obviously going to get his. It's not going to be that big of a thing. But if you can't control Durant, you don't have a shot.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, though, let's not discredit the fact that Klay Thompson just can come out of nowhere and go off the wall for 37 and a quarter.
But he's not going
to.
But he's not going to do that over 7 games straight.
No, he's
or
not
going to
do it over 7 games straight. But if there's a game where they're able to slow Durant up, he could pick up that slack. If it's consistent, then yeah, there may be issues. But I can't. Even if we were speaking years ago with Durant being an OKC, I can't see a team slowing down Durant to win a series.
Let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this then. If someone came to you and said one player has to be hurt on your team. If someone came to me and I was a Warrior fan and says you have to have one of your big guys go down, or if you have to have either Steph or KD go down with injury,
I pick Zaza.
Right, I pick Omri. We're signing them again. I honestly think that I would say, you know what? If I have to lose one of them, I want to lose Steph over Kevin Durant.
It's hard to pick because it kind of depends on where your mindset is as far as what you think is going to win. I think that consistency wise, as far as putting up those big points and consistently, having good nights, you got to look at Kevin Durant probably over Steph. But
to be hurt or to be playing?
No. I'm just talking about what you're looking for. So if you're looking for someone consistent every night that's going to give you, 20 plus points.
You want Durant on the court.
Yeah, you got to look at Durant. But if you want somebody in there that is going to change that tempo of your team, I feel like Steph Curry is like what Jimmy Garoppolo is to the 49ers. That's what Steph Curry is.
Right.
to the Warriors.
And that's what any good point guard is. He's your quarterback.
Exactly. And so he turns that tempo around, and it's just guys fuel off of his fire. So I don't know. I can't answer that question, and especially being in the playoffs and superstition, I'm not going to answer it, but it just kind of depends on where your mindset is at and which player you're looking for.
Will says Steph won without KD, and that's true.
That's absolutely true, yeah. And they actually beat the KD OKC Warriors.
Right. And I want, it also comes down to what intrigues me the most is Houston. Typically what you don't like LeBron though. That doesn't count, Will. What I look at though is matchups, right? So, and this isn't injury related. This is just basketball things here. Houston, you almost throw matchups out the window. Like typically you're like for example, we talked about the Warriors and the Spurs series.
Yeah.
Without Kawhi Leonard, they don't have anyone that slows down KD. Danny Green couldn't do it. So therefore, you pretty much throw the Spurs under the bus, right? They don't have any way to slow down any of those guys.
All right.
You play OKC. Paul George can play on KD. Westbrook on Steph is a fucking awesome matchup. There's a lot of intrigue there. It's going to make it a pretty even series.
Yeah.
Houston, regardless of who covers who, it's just going to be an offensive circus, right? It's going to be who shoots better because there's not really a lot of defense that's going to be played in that series. There's going to be some, but you're not going to have like, oh my God, somebody shut down somebody.
Yeah.
It's going to be who had a cold night, who had this, who had that. But when it comes to against teams in the East, what intrigues me the most is what Eastern Conference team is best suited to challenge. Let's just stick with Golden State. I look at Philly. If Embiid's playing,
you got Embiid, Simmons.
If you look at Philly, you got Embiid out there. Draymond's obviously going to be tied up with Embiid.
Yeah.
And aside from toughness, if he's fully healthy, I think Embiid gets that edge. Just because he's playing out of his mind right now. Like Draymond's going to slow him down, but he's not going to shut him down.
Yeah.
And then you put Simmons out there. He's a little bit too big for Steph at a point guard. So you're probably going to end up having like a Simmons-Durant matchup, which I think will be fucking fun as hell to watch. You got JJ Redick out there that's going to be able to shoot. Markelle Fultz and Steph Curry are going to be fun as hell to watch. I honestly think that Philly Golden State is the recipe from the East that's going to be one of those things where it's like,
a good matchup.
I can't wait for this to come on. I don't care who wins. I'm just looking forward to the basketball part of it.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy if those two teams both can make it. Now, it is the playoffs. Anything can happen. And I think this year's playoffs are going to be more exciting than most because I think there is a lot more parity possible. It's not just going to be, oh, look, it's going to be Warriors-Cavs again. Because, I mean, even as a Warrior fan, you've got to be looking at that going, damn, I want to see someone else other than Cleveland.
Right.
I mean, I know you want to be there. I mean, as a Warrior fan, you're like, sweet, it's Warriors again. But give me someone else. I'm tired of seeing the same damn two teams play for the last, 6 years. So I'm looking forward to it. Barnbaum says, I'm not sure if you're going to do anything Stanley Cup segment, but if you do, Sharks are up 2-0 on the Ducks. Series shifts to San Antonio on Monday. Yeah, Sharks are looking good, man. To go in and win 2 on the road in Anaheim, I think the Sharks are poised to do well. I'm not a big hockey guy. I don't know a lot about it. I'm rooting for the Sharks, but I just kind of watch it as it goes along. If you're not a hockey fan, this is the time to watch hockey though, because it is fun. But yeah, so basketball is gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I do think the Warriors represent at least into the finals, Western Conference Finals, and I think if Houston's there, it's a coin flip. I don't think that there's a team that you can literally say has a definitive edge in those series.
Yeah.
Any way you shape up the East, you could look at teams and go, this team has the edge. So that one's going to be fun too, but look forward to it. Basketball season, really kicks off in the playoffs. I wish my team would fucking make it once in a while, but eventually, at some point, other teams are going to get bad and we're going to sneak in. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, Utah did it, so we can do it too.
All right.
Giants are getting their asses kicked. There's not a lot to talk about the Giants. We're already over an hour. I would not be shocked if Mac Williamson's not called up from Sacramento soon. He has 5 home runs in the last 7 games.
Yeah, he just hit one last night.
He has 4 in a row in games played. He's hitting the ball well. Shaw's hitting the ball well. Duggar's doing all right. Like, the Giants are starting to have these guys in AAA knocking on the door. They're 6-9 right now, so they're 3 games under. But given the fact that Cueto, who comes back on Tuesday, was on the DL, missed a start. Samardzija should be back soon. Bumgarner's out. Melanson's out. You know, all these guys are just hurt, only being 3 games under right now, and really playing their best baseball against the Dodgers, which everyone was worried about them losing pace to the Dodgers.
No, Arizona is.
It's got to be Arizona you got to worry about.
Yeah, and I'm not really. I'm not as worried about the Giants pitching right now, knowing that we have all of those injuries and knowing what we're gonna likely get when we get these guys back, as I am the hitting. They just aren't scoring runs.
Nope.
I mean, even that first series, I know that it was for sure the first 2, but I believe our first 3 runs were all Joe Panic home runs.
They were.
So you got 3 runs all scored from 1 hit by the same player. And yeah, I mean, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if they called up Mac Williamson, who's killing it offensively down here in Sacramento right now.
And you give Pence a break.
And give Pence a break, right? And I don't know. These guys just... Longoria is struggling a lot. He just homered for the second time yesterday, but
the season is young. You know, TJ says the Giants still have their best baseball to play. Barnbaum says Arizona's currently losing 7-2 to the Dodgers in a divisional game. The Giants just have to keep their head above water. 20-something games in their first month are with division rivals.
Right.
If they're 2 or 3 games under 500 out of April, man, I'm okay with that. I'll take it because they're going to be playing a lot of, different teams that aren't as stacked going through May, June, and July. And then in end of July, August, when all the divisional stuff starts to kick in again, make up your ground then. Get healthy. Get everything going.
Well, and as Giants fans, we know that typically when we play our best baseball, it's after the All-Star break.
Yeah, exactly. Not last year.
Not last year, but normally after the All-Star break is when they heat up.
And Barnbaum, you're right, man. The bigger story today is baseball. All the games got canceled with rain. 6 games got canceled today because of weather. I got like so many fucking alerts on my fantasy team. It's like, so-and-so's in your lineup.
Dude, I'm over it. Since last Friday, I've been over fucking rained out games.
Well, right? You're totally over it. But yeah, the weather's been crazy. The River Cats hats with the Tower Bridge on them are fire, TJ. That's why I got one. Except I bought it too big. I had to let my hair grow out. I bought it half a size or a quarter size too big, unfortunately. But yeah, baseball, as long as the Giants stay above water and get themselves into the summer, just on the tails of the Dodgers. The Dodgers aren't playing good baseball either.
No,
and you got to imagine that Arizona's going to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, we just need series wins. I mean, that's what any team needs, really. I mean, if you're, winning series 2 out of 3 games or even evening up the series, I'll take that. If there's a 4-game split or a 2-game split and you take 1 or 2 of those games, it's just. But when we're losing series consistently, that's when it starts to pile up. And
and that's what it comes down to. Just get me my starters back. Get me my pitching back. I cannot stomach Beatty, Holland, Block, and who was the other one? Suarez right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I need my starting pitching back, and I think they'll be fine once that happens. But the demeanor of the locker room is going to change. And Mike's right. Detroit and New York today was a double header that got weathered out.
Jesus.
So I was like, "Oh, Aaron Judge is in my starting lineup today. He's got 2 games.
Right.
He's gonna." Nope, those both were canceled. Ridiculous. Speaking of double headers, we have the Giants and Dodgers on the 28th. The makeup game from the 6th that got rained out. I'm highly debating getting tickets to the nightcap as well and just staying out there the whole fucking day and watching baseball. Do you still have your sports talk radio? I don't know who you are, but yes, I'm doing it right now. That'll be something. Like I said, I'm debating just staying out there the whole damn day and watching baseball until that, because it's Brandon Crawford Gold Glove Gnome Night.
Right.
I kind of want one of those, but
you don't want the fanny pack?
What? There's no fanny pack.
There's a fanny pack. It's a retro fanny pack that they're giving out.
At what game?
Let me look it up.
The one we're going to?
No.
Oh, well, fuck it. I'm already going to be there on that day that they're giving the gnome away.
I thought that you just wanted the gnome. I was going to say you don't want to get the fanny pack.
I don't need a fanny pack. I got enough fanny. So, anything else you want to talk about sports related?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything that matters, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I would like to know who the fuck this is. Perfect climate. Oh, I know this is. Yeah, anyways. Many of those bobbleheads will be on eBay in minutes. I did. That's true. I probably could grab it. In fact, as we're leaving the fucking game, I bet you the boxes are going to be out. We can probably just snag one.
Yeah,
and
probably.
Run like hell.
The thing is that they up those prices so much when they first post them on the bobbleheads or like with the Giants when they gave out the replica rings and stuff.
Right.
People are listening for ridiculous prices. They go down after a while.
Hey, Will, I wouldn't worry about the A's too much. I worry about fans not showing up. I mean, fuck, there was a game last week. They had 6,500 people at a game against the Angels. You got to have more people show up, man. In an upcoming show, let's look at the Kings offseason news and talking topics. No, don't tell me what to do, Mike. The Kings, until they do something meaningful, don't get any airtime because it's until we get the draft lottery, I don't give a fuck. But A's fans, you guys need to start going to fucking games. You're not going to get a new stadium unless you start going to games. Every day the Mania pitches, we have a legit chance. Yeah, that dude's throwing the ball great. And the last thing, what's your take on Ohtani? Is he not fucking ridiculous?
He's crazy. I mean, on both sides of the ball, too, to be having that good of an ERA pitching and, you know, obviously the hitting is there, too. He looks like the Angels made the right move. We'll see.
Kind of bums me out
how it goes.
Since the Giants were second in line to get him. But
right.
You know what, though? We talked about this last week. I'm kind of glad, though, that the Giants didn't get him because in a way it's going to be one of those things where eventually you're going to have to figure out if you want him to be a hitter or a pitcher. He's not going to go both ways the whole season.
Right.
You know, you don't get him at bat the day before or the day after a start. You don't, you know, you're only getting him 3 days a week. That's taking away momentum from another guy that could be out there. Obviously, with it being a DH, it's a little bit easier in the American League. But in the National League, that would have been a shit show, trying to work him into lineups, trying to make sure he's getting his at-bats, taking away at-bats from, you know, from Pence or McCutcheon or whoever it might have been for the Giants. I'm starting to think, unless he would have been a one-way player, I'm glad that he didn't come here.
So if you had to make that decision, do you take him as a pitcher or a hitter?
I take him as a hitter.
I take him as a hitter, too.
As
Especially right now, we can't score no damn runs. Runners stranded left and right.
Let's see. Will says, let's talk about this guy at All-Star break. Yeah, that's what he's hot right now, but I like I said, I think at some point this season he's going to cool off and they're going to have to make a decision on him which way they want him to be.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you have him as a pitcher, but he's a pinch hit option, like, I mean, the Giants use Bumgarner, right? And they use him as a pinch hitter, but he's literally home run or bust. That's pretty much what it comes out to be. But
Ohtani's out there hitting triples.
But if you have Ohtani come out there and he's a legit late inning pinch hitter, outfielder, where let's say they go 12 innings and they need a pinch hitter, you pinch hit him and then you can leave him in the game, let him go play left field.
Right.
And you're like, all right, cool. We didn't just waste somebody. Now we don't. And then if it goes like 19 innings and you got to bring in a position player to pitch, guess who's pitching?
Yeah.
Ohtani, and you're going to get like 14 innings out of him.
Right.
So, I don't know. That dude's fun to watch. I don't think he sustains it all season, but, you know, we'll go from there. What do you have LeBron up for?
I just seen this. I didn't know that it was this many, but LeBron James has 21 straight round one wins.
Not after today.
God damn, he is old.
Yeah, that was 21 games, though. He lost today, which breaks that streak.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
True. That was posted 10 hours ago.
Yeah, 21 in a row. He won in the first round. I mean, he'll start that streak up again tomorrow because I don't think Cleveland loses that round, but it's gonna be fun. Well, George, I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate you filling in for Greg. It was a good one. We went an hour 20, so we're right about where we said we were gonna be.
Cool.
This will be posted on Instagram, on our website at sportstalk916.com. I do want to say, if you are looking to buy a home in the Sacramento area, you need to give my dude Albert Chavez a phone call. He is the mortgage king. He knows what he's talking about, and he will get you all of the rates, the details, the promotions, the money back, the financial assistance, anything you need. Albert is the guy to call. 916-230-1537. His information will be on our website this week with a link to his information. That way you can give him a call, and we'll have some commercials running for him starting soon. But again, Albert Chavez is the guy to call. He's all over Facebook. He's tagged in this video here, and hit us up if you need his information. But for George Ramos, I'm Greg Bull. We will see you guys we won't. Not next week. We will see you guys later.